Sigma males are the silent, intelligent type, and often what many would consider the lone wolf of the group. They love intellectual challenges and will be stimulated by anything that allows them to use their brain power. So avoid asking them anything that would require a simple yes or no answer. They'll get bored quickly. They make decisions based on rational logic rather than emotion, and always seem to be one step ahead of everyone else. But despite all their positive attributes, there are certain things you should never say to a Sigma male. 1. Can't you just be normal? Sigma males are unique individuals who think differently from the rest of the world. They're often considered the odd ones out, but that's just because they don't fit into the mold of what society considers to be normal. And that's perfectly okay with them. In fact, they often thrive in environments where they can be themselves without having to conform to someone else's expectations. So when you ask a Sigma male to just be normal, you're essentially telling them to suppress their true nature, adopting a herd mentality instead of being their own person. It's not that they're against being part of a group, they just prefer to do things their own way on their own terms. And that's something you should never try to change about them. This way of thinking doesn't come naturally to them, and they'll likely resent you for asking them to do it. Sigma men are independent thinkers who value their own opinion above all else, so telling them to be normal is just not going to work. 2. You're overthinking this. Sigma males are known for their deep thought processes and attention to detail, so telling them that they're overthinking something is like telling a fish to stop swimming. It's just not going to happen. Analyzing a situation from every angle is how they make decisions, and they're not going to change their ways just because you think they're overdoing it. That's why you often find them lost in their own thoughts. They're just trying to make sense of everything. Their mind is always working, even when they're not actively thinking about something. So if you want to grab their attention, you'll need to say something that really piques their interest. People often mistake their introspection for boredom, but it's actually quite the opposite. When a Sigma is bored, it's because they've already figured everything out, and there's nothing left to stimulate their mind. So if you find yourself in a conversation with one that seems to be going nowhere, don't hesitate to change the subject or move on to someone else. Telling them to stop thinking so much is like telling them to stop being themselves, and that's just not going to fly. 3. Can you explain that again? Sigma males are not the type of men who are patient when it comes to explaining things. This is because their mind processes a lot of ideas in a short time, and if you stop them from speaking, it can disrupt their thought process. They often speak in a rapid-fire way and can be hard to understand if you're not used to it. This is because they want to get their ideas out as quickly as possible so they can move on to the next thing. Asking them to explain something again is only going to frustrate them. They might even think you're not interested in what they're saying. Sigmas hate having to repeat themselves or go over something more than once. This is because they value their time and don't want to waste it with people who can't keep up. They're already trying to explain as best they can, so asking them to do it again will only frustrate them. 4. You're too quiet. Sigma males are not the type of men who feel the need to fill every silence with chatter. They're comfortable with silence and often use it as a way to think things through. Sigmas are reflective people who like to take their time before they speak. Rushing them to talk will only make them retreat further into their shell. They hate small talk and would much rather have a deep conversation about something that matters to them. They are often seen as aloof or even rude because they don't feel the need to engage in idle chatter. But the truth is, they just don't see the point. They'd rather save their energy for things that are actually worth their time and effort. Being loud and outgoing is not a requirement for being a Sigma. In fact, many of them prefer to stay in the background and let their actions speak for themselves. Getting them to be more talkative will only frustrate you and them. 5. Just follow the rules. Sigma males are known for their rebellious nature, So it should come as no surprise that they're not big fans of following rules. They see the world differently than most people, which often leads them to challenge authority. They're not deliberately trying to cause trouble. They just don't see the point in blindly following rules that don't make sense to them. In their mind, if something doesn't make sense, then it's probably not worth following. This can be frustrating for those in positions of authority when dealing with a Sigma, but it's important to remember that they're just trying to see things from their own perspective. Sigma men often have a strong sense of justice, so if they see something they believe is unfair, they'll likely speak up or take action. While this may not always be the best course of action, it's just their way of trying to make the world a better place. 6. This is too difficult for you. Sigma males thrive on intellectual challenges. If you tell them something is too complicated, they'll likely see it as a personal challenge and not back down until they figure it out. They're quick learners and have a knack for understanding complex concepts, so telling them that something is beyond their abilities is just an insult, not because they think they're smarter than you, but because they know you can't judge anyone's abilities until you've seen them in action. In their mind, if they can't do something, it's because they haven't tried hard enough. So instead of giving up, they'll keep pushing until they find a way. Being stuck, limited or controlled in any way is extremely frustrating for Sigma. This can also be frustrating for those around them, but it's just how they operate. If you find yourself in a situation where you need help, don't hesitate to ask a Sigma male. They'll likely be more than happy to lend a hand, as long as you don't try to patronize them in the process. 7. Why don't you smile too? Being authentic is one of the most important things to Sigmas, and they are not afraid to show it. Telling them to smile more is basically telling them to be someone they're not. It's an insensitive thing to say, and it will only make them feel uncomfortable. They're not naturally inclined to smile or laugh all the time, even when something is funny. This doesn't mean they don't have a sense of humor, they just don't express it in the same way that other people do. You should expect a smile only if they genuinely feel like it. Don't take it personally if they don't return your smile. They're just not wired that way. Sigma males are often seen as cold or distant because of their lack of emotion, but this isn't necessarily true. They can be very loving and compassionate people, but they express it in their own unique way. 8. You're not good enough. This is probably the worst thing you could ever say to a Sigma male. They strive for excellence in everything they do and won't settle for anything less. Telling them they're not good enough is basically suggesting them to give up on their dreams. It's an insult to everything they stand for, and it will likely push them even harder to prove you wrong. Sigma men normally don't care about proving anyone wrong, but this could be a different story if you are someone close to them. It could be a friend, family member, or even a romantic partner. If you're someone they care about, then telling them they're not good enough is like you don't believe in them. This is the surest way to lose their respect and trust. While you may not mean it negatively, it's still something you should avoid saying to Sigma at all costs. If you want to motivate a Sigma, this is definitely not the way to do it. Instead, try telling them that you believe in them and know they can achieve anything they set their mind to. This might seem like a small thing, but it will mean the world to them. They'll appreciate your support, giving them the motivation to keep going. 9. But everyone's doing it. Sigma males are the type of men who march to the beat of their own drum. They don't care about what other people think or do, and will not let anyone else dictate their lives. So telling them that everyone is doing something won't convince them to do it too. In fact, it's likely to have the opposite effect. This will quickly raise a question mark in their head and make them more suspicious of the situation. They'll start to wonder why everyone is doing it, and if there's something they're not being told. Once Sigmas begin to question things, they're not going to stop until they get to the bottom of it. Just because something has always been done one way doesn't mean that's the best way. Sigma men are very independent people who value their autonomy. They don't like being told what to do, especially by someone trying to conform them to the masses. If you want to get on their good side, it's best to let them make their own decisions. 10. Don't try to motivate them with praise. Sigmas are not the type of men motivated by praise or recognition. They would much rather be respected for their accomplishments than lauded for their effort. This is because they already have a high opinion of themselves and don't need anyone else to validate their worth. Praising them will only make them feel awkward and even a little annoyed. They didn't do what they did to be praised. They did it because they wanted to achieve something. Sigmas can read people very well and can see through insincere compliments. They know when someone is just trying to butter them up and will not respond well to it. If you want to gain their respect, it's best to be honest with them and give them constructive feedback. Trying to motivate a Sigma male with praise is a waste of time and energy. They're not going to respond to it as you want them to. 11. You should just give up. Sigma males are determined and resilient people who never give up on their dreams, even in the face of adversity. Once they've set their sights on something, they're not going to give up until they achieve it. So telling them to give up is basically telling them to accept defeat. This is the surest way to get them to dig their heels in and keep going. Their inner drive is strong, and they're not going to let anyone or anything stand in their way. While they may not show it, Sigmas are very sensitive people. They feel things deeply, especially when it comes to their dreams and goals. Telling them to give up is a quick way to hurt their feelings and damage your relationship with them. If you're not coming from their perspective, it can be hard to understand why this is such a big deal to them. Unless you want to cause them a lot of pain, it's best to avoid saying this at all costs. Sigmas are known for their stubbornness, and this is one of the things that makes them successful. 12. You're too opinionated. Sigma males are known for their strong opinions and are not afraid to voice them. This can often be seen as a negative trait, but it's really just a sign of their confidence. If a Sigma has taken the time to make a statement, chances are they've thought it through pretty carefully first. They're not afraid to speak their mind, even if it means going against the grain. In their eyes, if something is worth saying, then it's worth saying loud and clear. This level of honesty can be difficult for some people to handle, but it's just who they are. If you can't handle someone being opinionated, then Sigma is probably not the right person for you. Usually, they are very silent and stay in the background, but when they do speak up, their words carry a lot of weight. When a Sigma decides to voice their opinion, it's usually because they strongly believe what they're saying. So, if you find yourself on the receiving end of Sigma's opinion, just know that it comes from a place of sincerity.